Hello all. Alright, giving you a reading list simply because the English teacher and me could not have a video without me talking about reading books. So, first one up. Well, actually, interesting story about this. Of all the people in the world, this book actually was a recommendation from my CPA. I was doing my taxes and called him up and said, okay, alright, what can I claim for medical? And he was like, why? What's going on? So I explained my situation about being diagnosed with glioblastoma multiforme. And he went really quiet for a moment. He was like, I want you to write this down. I was like, okay. So I already had a pen in hand. So I was like, go for it. He's like, I'm going to give you the name of a book which I want you to write down. And I was like, okay, sure. Took my pen and he said, there's a book. It's called Natural Strategies for Cancer Patients by Russell L. Blaylock, MD. This is the book. I was like, oh, that's cool, thanks. And he's like, no, you need to buy this on Amazon today. Have it delivered to you, like next day shipping or whatever you got to do. And I was like, well, I'm a Prime member, so it'll come in 2 days. He said, you need to read it cover to cover. And he was adamant. I was like, okay. Interesting, my tax guy is giving me information on like health stuff, but all right, I'll give it a whirl. And I thought he probably heard a little bit of incredulousness in my voice, so he's like, no, really, do this. It will probably save your life. As soon as he said that, something kind of clicked that maybe I should really listen to this. So this book right here, I'll put it down in the description section. Well, the book is amazing, for one. It helps explain the cancer process, what goes wrong with your body when like you're having cancer, steps that you can take to help alleviate symptoms of cancer. And the cool thing is, it's just all through diet and nutrition, which I'm going to talk a whole video about. But it is essential reading. I cannot say this enough, how you must go get this book and read it. This book is probably one of the reasons why I'm still alive and kicking when the rate of people that survive what I have is abysmal, as I mentioned earlier in my intro video. So it doesn't matter what kind of cancer you have, go read the book. Very, very essential. The cool thing about it is it will give you a heads up on what's going on with the cancer, what the chemo does to you, what the radiation does to you. Talks about different types of chemo. Me, I have a chemo where I just had to take an oral form. So I popped a couple pills per night. Granted, it still sucked. Whereas some people have, ports or picks where they basically had the chemo in the bag that's like dripped into them. Me, I avoided that, but no matter what kind of cancer you have, get this book. Alright, the next book that I want to talk to you about is No Death, No Fear. Reason for this one is when you get diagnosed, your world has a tendency to just kind of change quite a bit. Things like your perspective changes. My docs actually said to me, they're like, listen, you're probably going to go one of 2 ways after you get diagnosed. And I was like, okay, what do you mean? And they said, well, you might be one of those individuals that like learns about, you got brain cancer, and then you're just going to go back to your old life. No problem. Some people can do it. And then my doc kind of looked at me and he kind of smiled and said, then there's the other group of people that learn they have brain cancer and go, done with the old stuff, gonna do a new track. Because you realize that's all you got. There is, I believe, another track, however, where people just fall into complete despair. And I've seen it. I've had one of my best friends from high school. He had 2 family members that were diagnosed with cancer. Their cancer took their lives eventually. And he said to me, one of the things that he knew it was going to be time, it was pretty much over for them when they gave up hope. And that's one thing that this book, No Death, No Fear, it talks about that. And it's the idea, it also talks about how there's more to life than what we see. Okay, I should also say, me, I'm a Zen Buddhist, practicing Zen Buddhist, been doing it for years, sit Zazen every single day. So, it's a Buddhist book. Some people may go, I'm not going to read a stupid Buddhist book. You may want to. If you're having a lot of doubt and anxiety about your life, knowing that you now have cancer, it's very comforting. It's a book that offers a different way to look at life so that everything doesn't look quite as dire. Me, when they told me, I remember this perfectly, I'm sitting there in the room, my oncologist and my neurosurgeon met with me on the same exact day. As soon as I heard that they wanted me on the same day, I was like, this is not going to be good. So they sat me down, they're like, okay, we did the biopsy, and unfortunately, you do have glioblastoma multiforme, stage 4. I just kind of looked at him, but then the craziest thing was, I just felt a sense of calm completely came over me. Don't know why. But then I went back after I was diagnosed and I reread this, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's why, because the fear of death, let's face it, we're all human, we don't want to die. This talks about that, and it goes into it, and talks about how, listen, there is no death, so there's no use having fear of it. That helped quite a bit, at least for me. So, seriously, it's a Buddhist book. Once again, some people may be like, I don't want to read a Buddhist book. Do it. It's good. It's an easy read. It's super, super fast. It's very humanistic. Read it. Once again, I'll put it down in the description section. Now, the last book that I'm going to talk about is one that, okay, it's gigantic. It's one of the most well-known science fiction books ever written. Dune, Frank Herbert. Okay. Probably everyone in the audience just went. Except a couple people, as I was just talking about fear prior, just going, I know where he's going with this. Alright. Frank Herbert's Dune, for me at least, gave me a compass of sorts. There is it's called the Bene Gesserit Litany Against Fear. And it's presented really super early in the book, so if you don't want to read the book, or you can just look up this quote. Actually, before I go into the book itself, little story. Long, long time ago, I think I was like 8 or 9 when this happened. I think there's maybe 2 other people that know about this, maybe someone's parents. A couple friends and I, this is in the middle of the winter in central New York, snow piled like 3-4 feet high. We decided to go wandering out on this lake. Middle of the lake, walking along. I'm a little bit further back, but I get to watch as Patrick falls right through the ice. Next thing I know, he's like popped out from the water. And the only thing he manages to get out is help me. Me, completely froze. Fear just clawed itself right into me. I couldn't move, couldn't do anything. Luckily, Adam was able to he shimmied on over, grabbed hold of Patrick, pulled him on out. We trundled on back home as quickly as we possibly could. Patrick freezing the whole way because he did, once again, middle of the winter, he had just fallen through the ice. But we get him back home, totally fine. Obviously get him warmed back up, no issue. The thing that I learned from that is fear will completely shut you down. I vowed from that point on I would never be that fearful of anything again. I swore I'd never shut down that bad ever again. Interesting, no? It was at Patrick's house that I actually first learned about the series, the Dune series. So, Some connection, maybe, who knows. But the thing that actually I remember reading, because as I said, this quote is super early on in the book. I remember reading it and thinking, this is something I can latch onto. And now this is when I was like 8 years old, and I've repeated it to myself day in, day out for years and years and years. Whenever I'm presented with a situation that is like frightening, makes me fearful, anything like that. And it does help. So, I'm going to read it for you guys. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. When I got diagnosed, I repeated that to myself every single morning when I got up. I put Dune on my book stand, next to my bed. Every morning when I got up, I'd roll over, open it up, read that quote. Because, trust me, given the prognosis that I was, it's a little scary. But as I said, I swore that I would never let fear compromise me again. And that litany helps dramatically. Okay, maybe you don't have to read the book. I would suggest reading it. It is one of the greatest science fiction books ever written. But it will definitely help you out. So, from me to you, a couple books. Obviously I said this one for the health aspect, this one for a bit of the spiritual aspect, this one to combat the fear that you will probably be feeling after you get this diagnosis. That's it. Good luck. Go get the books. As I said, I'll put all 3 of them in the description section, and you can go from there. See you later.